Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Maritime English course, week 83rd, day 2. Now, before we start, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation to our Gimyang Shipping Seafarers Union for their valuable support and cooperation in helping us develop this maritime English course. Basically, our purpose is not simply teach English. All right? We want to develop English that you can actually use on board the vessel. Today, I'm your teacher for today, Teacher Shelly. We will use real maritime situations to practice vocabulary, the expressions, the instructions, and communication. Since our topic is related to fire, safety, and MARPOL compliance, and the daily shipboard operations, while studying the technical subject, we will also practice how to communicate these situations in very simple English. All right? And then, please don't worry if your English is not perfect. No, it's not our point here, why we have maritime English. But I would just want everyone to participate. If you make a mistake, that's purely okay. All right? So nothing to worry. The important thing is that you try to communicate. Okay? So this course is also supported by the Gimyang Shipping Seafarers Union. And we really appreciate their support because effective communication is really very important for seafarers. On board a vessel, English is a common or is commonly used for communication between crew members, between officers, for the shore personnel, and sometimes for the inspectors or other port authorities, right? Now, a good communication, as we all know, really can help prevent misunderstanding, right? Especially if there are multinational seafarers on board. Meaning, there is Filipinos, there is Koreans, there is Chinese, there is Japanese, or sometimes Malaysian, or Indonesian, Russian, any nationalities on board, no? And also, a good communication can help prevent operational mistakes, right? And then it prevents accident. And of course, the delays, which we always have to prevent that. So, our objective now here is to develop a practical maritime English. Okay? That means you have or you can use when you are giving instructions, right? You are reporting a problem. You are responding to an emergency. You are describing an operation or simply communicating with our fellow crew members on board, right? So, for example, instead of only learning the word fire, we want it to be able to say fire reported in the garbage storage room, right? So, that is the practical maritime English way. Alright? So, thank you, Gimyang, for all of your support and for making this maritime English course possible. Alright? So, our first topic for today is, for our week 83rd, day 2 is about fire safety, MARPOL compliances, and daily operations. Okay, now let's break it down. Okay, let's break this down. So first is the fire safety. Now we will talk about garbage that can create a fire hazard and how it should be handled safely. Okay, and then we will talk about the MARPOL compliances or compliance. We will discuss here the proper garbage management and pollution prevention. Okay? And thirdly, the daily operations. Okay, now here we will connect these requirements to the actual work which is carried out by the crew every day. So, today's lesson is not only about regulations. It's all about what you actually do on board every day. Okay? So, let's begin with fire and safety garbage hazards. Okay. Now, let's look the different types of garbage that can become a fire hazards. Okay, we have combustible waste. Okay, for example, for that is combustible waste like the paper. Right? Okay. Cardboard, packaging, and general plastics. So the word combustible means something that can burn. Right? I was able to discuss this in our previous lessons. Okay, so let's practice. Okay, paper is combustible. Everybody repeat. Paper is combustible. So, we have high-risk items also, which includes in the galley, oily rugs, the paint residues in the engine room, solvent containers, chemical packaging, and aerosol cans. Okay? These materials, that's why it's called high risk, because it needs or it requires a special attention because they can create a fire hazards. Alright? So, again, with the previous lesson, these are the three elements. We have the heat, the fuel, and the oxygen. So, isn't it that this is what we call fire triangle, right? So without each of this, you cannot create fire. It should be all at the same time, right? So for the storage and incinerator safety standards, okay, let's talk about storage, okay, and incinerator safety standards. These are very important checks before operating the incinerator. So first, you have to check the operating permits. Okay, you have to check that. And then secondly, you have to verify that the materials are approved for burning. Okay? And then thirdly, we have to wear the PPEs. Okay? The PPEs, the personal protective equipment. Okay. We have the gloves, this one, the helmets, okay? The coverall, okay? So, you have to monitor now the operating temperature of the incinerator. And remember this, everyone. Never burn prohibited items. Okay? So, these prohibited plastics. Okay? Like plastics materials. Okay? Heavy metals. Okay? So, we must always know what materials are permitted, okay, before putting the garbage into the incinerator. Okay? So you have to check that always. Not all garbage are safe to put or place in the incinerator. Okay? Always remember that, everyone. Not all garbage are allowed. Alright. Now, let's imagine an actual emergency on board. So, the situation is like, for example, fire reported in the garbage storage room. Okay? So, what would be the chief officer will do? Or what would what would you say if you're the chief officer? Now, it could be, you can just simply say, fire reported in the garbage storage room. Okay, this is short. Then, this is short and this is easily to understand. Then, okay, the bridge will respond, no? You have to activate emergency response team. All right? And then, the chief engineer says, fire pump ready. Okay? So, we have to practice this together and I will be the chief officer. Okay? For example, fire reported in garbage storage room, and then you respond as, activate emergency response team. And then, fire pump ready. Okay? So, notice that something is important. During an emergency, we don't use long and complicated words. Okay? We don't, actually. Okay? We use short, we use direct, we use clear communication. So these are simple expressions, but they are very important on board. Right? Remember that. Short, clear, and direct phrases. Alright. So, now let's look more closely at high-risk garbage. Okay. Oily clothes and rugs. Why are oily rags and clothes dangerous? Well, of course, when an oil dries on a rug, an oxidation reaction can generate heat. Right? Now, if the rugs are placed together in a pile like this, the heat may not dissipate properly. No? Now, this can potentially result in spontaneous combustion. So, spontaneous combustion is means there might be a fire that can be created by the dry oil in the pile of rugs and clothes. Okay? Now, through here, that's the reason why it is under the high risk garbage category. Okay? Because there's oily clothes and rugs, there's paint residues in this, there are, sometimes there are solvent containers that are also placed in here, and there are chemical packaging. So, it's considered now a high risk garbage category. Okay? Now, how do we safely handle high-risk refuse? Okay, let's look at oily rugs first. Now, dedicated heavy duty metals cans with a tight self-closing lids. So, the important expression here is self-closing container, right? And then self-closing container, why do we have to use that? Okay. Self-closing container should be, or it helps the oxygen available to the oily rugs and reduces the risk of fire. Okay? Did you get it? So, if you have this closing containers, it helps limit now the oxygen available to the oily rugs. Okay? And reduce the risk of fire. Now, with the solvents, excuse me, and chemicals, this should be stored in an appropriate hazardous material lockers. Of course, with suitable ventilation. Okay, and for the aerosol cans, they should not be crushed or compacted. And they should be kept in an appropriate storage away from the heat. Okay, so of course, do not practice or do not crush aerosol cans. Store oily rugs in a self-closing container and keep hazardous materials properly stored. And keep flammable materials away from ignition sources. That's the best way of safe handling rules for high risk refuse. Okay? All right. Now, let's talk about safe garbage storage requirements. Okay? The proper storage, of course, helps reduce fire risk. Of course, biological hazards. Okay? And problems may caused by loose equipment during heavy weather. Okay? So, the first requirement is dry environment. Garbage storage area should be kept dry. Next, it should be well ventilated. Good ventilation helps prevent the buildup of dangerous vapors. Right? And then, thirdly, away from ignition sources. That's the third requirement. Okay, remember our earlier vocabulary, ignition source. Okay, that's something that can start a fire. Example, your hot work, your electrical equipment, your steam pipes, the machinery exhaust. Okay, those are the examples. And then the fourth requirement or the storage requirement for garbage storage requirement is what we call the properly labeled garbage. So garbage containers should be clearly identified according to their waste category. And then finally, of course, the fifth safe garbage storage requirement is you have to secure the garbage for heavy weather. Okay, this is very important on board because during heavy weather, garbage containers can move, right? Anything can move during heavy weather. So, they can damage equipment or create a hazard. So, they must be properly secured, of course. Not just our cargoes, but also the garbage, everything during heavy weather. So, right? Let's practice for example, secure the garbage containers before heavy weather. And then everybody will answer. Secure the garbage containers before heavy weather. All right? So, did you still understand about our lesson, our discussion? So that we can move to our next slide. Okay. So, incinerator safety protocols. Okay. Now, we come now here to our incinerator safety protocols. Now, a shipboard incinerator operates at a very high temperatures, right? So, here, the slides indicate temperatures from approximately 850 degrees Celsius to 1200 degrees Celsius. Okay? That means strict safety procedures are required. Okay? So before operating the incinerator, we need to check several things. First, check permits and location. Secondly, only permitted materials should be burned. And thirdly, we have to wear our PPEs, right? The heat-resistant gloves, our face shield, our safety glasses, and flame retardant coveralls. Okay? So, for example, I will say, no, I'm the master, I'm the officer, or I'm the chief officer. Wear the required PPE before operating the incinerator, and then everyone will repeat. Wear the required PPE before operating the incinerator. Okay? I'll repeat. Another important point here is do not burn prohibited drugs. Materials. Before starting the operation. Always verify what can and cannot be burned. Alright? So, next, before we move to our next part, let's quickly review what we have learned. So, we learned that garbage cannot become a serious fire hazard. Okay? So, we learned about combustible waste, the oily rugs, the paint residues, the solvent containers, the chemical packaging, and the aerosol cans, right? And also, we learned something about the expressions as fire reported, emergency response team, the fire pump ready, the self-closing container, the ignition source, the approved materials, and the required PPE. Right? Those I mentioned are just or are not just vocabulary words. Remember that, everyone. They are words and expressions that can be used in real shipboard situations. Okay? So, go back to our previous slides. Then, you can study that and then understand the words and then the operation itself. And use the word correctly. That is our purpose of maritime English. Okay? Now, let's continue. Let's continue to our next slide here. Now, we have the incident post-mortem and findings. Okay? We are going to look at an incident involving a fire caused by oil, no? So, cotton rags. So, the purpose of looking at an incident is not simply to know what happened. No? We want to understand what is the direct cause. What went wrong? Okay? And how can we prevent it from happening again? So, spontaneous combustion of oil-soaked cotton rugs is the direct cause of this. Okay? So, we can simply think, no, because of not segregating the garbage, you can simply think what is the direct cause, the root cause, and what is the corrective action to do here, right? So proper segregation of the garbage is the corrective action. Okay? Proper segregation. Now, let's move to topic number 2, which is the marine pollution response. Now, this is another very important area of shipboard operations. When we talk about marine pollution, we are talking about preventing harmful substances or waste from damaging the marine environment. See the corals, the fish, okay? Now, but today, we are also going to focus on the English used when responding to a pollution incident. Now, for example, imagine that you notice an oil spill, this one on board. You need to communicate quickly. Okay? You may need to say, I detected an oil spill, or there is an oil spill near the fuel transfer area. Or maybe you can say, the spill has been reported to the master. Okay? Those are the practical maritime English expressions. Now, let's continue to the next slide. The core objectives and response steps. Okay? Now, I will give you 6 important response steps. Let's read, no? Detect, report, assess, contain, recover, and then document. Okay. These 6 words are important. So, let's go through one by one. So, when you say detect, means to identify or discover the pollution hazard. For example, the crew detected an oil spill, right? And then you will report. After detecting, we need to report it. For example, you will say, report the pollution incident to the master. Okay? And then the third, important, okay, is, assess. You have to assess. You have to evaluate the situation. Like, assess the extent of the pollution. Okay? We want to know how serious is it? Or where is it coming from? Or is it spreading already? Like this. Alright? And then after that, after evaluating, after assessing, you have to contain. Okay? Contain means to prevent the pollution from spreading. Okay? From spreading further. So you have to contain now the spill immediately. Okay, and then the next one is the recover stage. Recover means you have to collect or you have to clean up, no, the spilled materials. For example, you can recover the spilled materials using an appropriate equipment. There are materials or appropriate equipment. And then lastly, you have to have it documented. Document the incident. That means what happened, the time, the actions taken, and other required information. You have to document everything. So detect, report, assess, contain, recover, and then document it. Okay? That's the proper way for our core objectives on how to respond the pollution. Okay? Now, let's talk about the reason behind these procedures. All right. Now, why do we need to prevent marine pollution, basically? Why? Well, basically, because We need to protect the marine life and the marine environment. So, the slide identifies several important concerns. First is preventing bioaccumulation, because certain harmful substances can of course harm the entire, no? And enter the marine food chain and eventually affect the marine animals and humans. Like for example, the garbage you're thrown away, okay? The fish, the shrimps, anything that we eat. So, the cycle is just, it will go back to you. Right? So, certain harmful substances that can enter the marine food chain and eventually affect the marine animals and us also, humans. Okay, and then secondly, maintaining dissolved oxygen levels. Now, there are certain types of waste that can contribute to oxygen depletion in water. And then, thirdly, preventing ingestion and entanglement. Plastic and other wastes can be swallowed by the marine animals, or sometimes it can cause them to become trapped, no? So we are also helping protect the marine environment here. Excuse. So when we properly manage, no, the garbage on board, well, we are not simply following a company procedure here. We are also really helping protect the marine environment. Okay? So the maritime English practice is like proper garbage management helps protect marine life, right? Proper garbage management helps protect marine life. Okay. Now, with regards to our next slide, which is about the practical ways to protect marine life on board. Here, in this slide, it focuses on engine room operations. Now, one important requirement is to maintain, okay, the oil water separator, or the OWS. Okay, again, maintain oil water separators, OWS. Okay, now, this refers to the oil discharge monitoring equipment used in applicable operations. So the important message is that pollution prevention equipment must be kept in proper working condition. Okay? Another practical measure is the use of drip tray. Okay? Or trays. Okay? You use the drip trays. Should be used under the areas where oil or other fluids may leak during transfer or maintenance operations. Okay? Now, this slide, okay, reminds us about oily rugs and contaminated filters. So, this should be stored in the designated self-closing metal drums like this. Okay? So, you have to follow or practice doing this. Now, for the next slide, the practical ways to protect marine life on board. Okay? Now, let's look at the deck operations. One important practice is plug the deck scoopers, okay? You have to plug it. And before certain operations such as fuel bunkering or oil tanker, okay, we have to do this, okay? And then when we say plug deck scoopers, before certain operations such as fuel bunkering or oil transfer, we have to do that. This is the opening, no? This is the opening drain, okay, or an opening used to remove water from the deck, okay? So if we say, like for example, plug the deck scoopers before bunkering, this means we need to prevent an accidental spill from flowing directly overboard. Okay? So another practice is using an eco-friendly biodegradable cleaning detergents. Okay? You have to practice that. Okay? And then the loose cargo packaging. Okay? These materials can potentially be blown over during strong winds or heavy weather. So you have to prevent that, no? You have to secure that. Okay, now for our next slide, okay, the practical ways to protect marine life on board. Okay, now this is practically important for creating or for the catering crew and anyone involved in galley and mess room operations. Right? So, in this slide, food wastes must be properly handled and managed according to the applicable requirements. Okay, and what are those? Or what is the important point here? Food waste should not contain non-biodegradable packaging or plastic. Not. Okay, do not or should not contain. Do not mix plastic with food waste. All right? Do not mix plastic with food waste. Okay? Single-use plastics can include unnecessary plastic packaging like the cups, containers, and other disposable materials. So, why should you do that? In order to remove the plastic and segregate the waste properly. This is a very simple action, but it is an important part of pollution prevention on board. Always remember that. Galley department, paging galley department, you have to remember this always. Proper segregation. Separate food waste from the plastic materials. Always remember that. Okay? Again, because not all garbage are allowed in our incinerator machine. Okay? Now, we are looking at a broader operational practices, okay, to minimize pollution. The first one is waste minimization at source. So this means reducing waste before it is even generated. Okay, like for example, we can avoid unnecessary plastic packaging when receiving stores. Okay, now secondly, a rigorous a rigorous waste segregation. Okay, that means separating different types of waste correctly. Separate the plastics, as always mentioned, the food waste, incinerator ash, electronic waste, and other hazardous materials. Okay? And then we have the proper equipment maintenance. Regular maintenance helps prevent leaks from equipment such as your hydraulic systems and machineries. And then we have another emergency. The last is the emergency preparedness. The crew must be prepared to quickly. You have to respond quickly to an oil or pollution incident. Okay? So, let's have a practice. Okay. The useful expressions. Okay? So, follow me. Just follow me. Okay. Reduce the waste at the source. Secondly, segregate waste properly. Thirdly, inspect the equipment regularly. And then, be prepared for pollution emergencies. Okay? So, these are simple sentences, but they describe important shipboard responsibilities. Okay? So, next is the MARPOL Annex 5. Okay, here. Now, we come up to a very important subject or topic now. The MARPOL Annex 5. It simply deals with the prevention of pollution by garbage from ships. Now, this slide identifies several categories of garbage, including plastic, food waste, domestic waste. We have operational waste, the cargo residues, the cooking oil, incinerator ashes, and the animal carcasses. Okay. Now, and also food waste, no? So, the important is that, the important principle is that garbage discharge into the sea is generally prohibited except where specifically permitted by MARPOL Annex 5. Okay? One particular important rule here is that plastic, okay, must not be discharged into the sea. Again, plastic must not be discharged into the sea. Okay? Now, question. Can plastic be discharged into the sea? Of course, no. Okay? Now, second question. Why do we segregate garbage, basically? Well, our first answer should be to prevent pollution. Secondly, to prevent cross-contamination. So, you have to handle these different waste categories correctly. Okay? That is the best answer. Why do we segregate garbage? Okay? Now, let's go to the MARPOL annexes. Okay. Here, it gives a broader overview of the MARPOL annexes. So, let's look at them one by one. Annex 1 deals with the pollution from oil. Okay? Next is Annex 2. control of pollution by noxious liquid substance in bulk. This deals with harmful liquid substances carried in bulk. Okay? The next is the prevention of pollution by harmful substances carried by packed form or package form. This includes the proper stowage, the labeling, and securing dangerous packaged goods. Okay? And the Annex 4, prevention of pollution by sewage. Now, this deals with the sewage discharge and applicable treatment requirements. And we have the Annex 5, the prevention of pollution by garbage, as discussed earlier. And then we have the Annex 6, the prevention of air pollution from ships. Now, this covers air pollution requirements, including fuel-related requirements and the restrictions concerning incineration. Okay? Now, let's say, for example, when I will ask, you tell me the what annex, okay? For Annex 1, what is it? Of course, pollution by oil. The Annex 2, the noxious liquid substance, no, in bulk. Okay? And then the third is harmful substance carried by packed form or package form. And then for Annex 4, the sewage. And for the 5, the garbage. It's just as simple. The Annex 6 is air pollution. So that's how simple way to understand the MARPOL Annex or the annexes. Okay? Remember always this one. Okay, now, so we were able to discuss na about safety, pollution prevention, and communication, no? They are really closely connected. Now, we'll learn or we'll go to our next slide, which is the environmental damage. Okay, now, since we have already discussed the fire safety, the garbage hazards, the marine pollution response, and the last one is the MARPOL, the annexes. Now, I want us also to focus on the actual consequences or the result when we throw away our garbage at sea. Now, what are the actual consequences when we fail to manage garbage and pollution properly? So, of course, as a seafarer, no, we are not only responsible for the safe operation of the vessel. Yeah, really. We also have a responsibility to protect, no? You have to protect the marine environment because the ocean is our workplace. But think of the marine life. This is their home. Okay? To millions of living organisms. Okay? So, every action we take on board, especially regarding the garbage, the oil, the chemicals, and other waste, we can have an effect on the sea. So let us look at some of the major environmental damages that can result from improper waste management. Okay? So let's try to look. Here, dead marine animals, right? We have dead marine animals here. So marine pollution can directly cause the death of marine organisms. Okay? Now, according to our presentation, the toxins and from oil spills or from our chemical runoff or our heavy metals can cause immediate mortality here through poisoning them, the organ failure and asphyxiation of the marine animals. That is another serious problem is what we call ghost fishing. Ghost fishing. So ghost fishing happens when fishing gear is lost or abandoned in the sea, even though the fishermen, the fishermen are no longer using it. No, the equipment can continue to trapping and killing the marine animals for years. So this reminds us that the pollution is really not always something that we can immediately see. Sometimes the damage continues long after the original incident. So, well, everyone on board the vessel, we we must make sure that our garbage, our ropes, our plastics, and other materials are properly secured and never allowed to accidentally enter the sea. No? Because, look, this is a long result, no? Long result of our garbages thrown into the sea. Okay? So, dead marine animals. Okay? Now, with regards to here, for example, plastic ingestion. No, we throw away this plastic on the sea. Now, this is one of the major problems associated with marine pollution. Actually, the seabirds, the sea turtles, the fish, the marine mammals, it can mistake plastic wastes for them. No. Plastic waste food for them. No? So with these animals, they can swallow this one because they thought this is the food that we thrown, but it can block their digestive system. Right? Once they ingested this one, the plastic, it can also make them feel full, no? Even though they are not receiving proper nutrition. So imagine that, no? If we will throw away these plastic materials. So eventually this can lead to starvation to them. So this presentation also reminds us that plastic or plastics can release toxic chemicals into the animal tissues. So when we throw this or accidentally lose plastic into the ocean, we are not simply throwing away a piece of garbage. We are potentially introducing a dangerous material into the marine food chain. That is why the bottom line again is the proper segregation and storage of these plastic materials on board is extremely important. Okay, remember always, plastic waste must never be discharged into the sea. Okay? Always remember that, everyone. Now, excuse me. Now, let us look at habitat destruction. So, marine ecosystems such as the coral reef, no? The seagrass beds, this one, and mangrove forests are very important, no? Because they provide food, they provide shelter, and they provide a nursery ground for many marine species. However, these ecosystems can be damaged by heavy equipment thrown away into the sea, toxic chemical discharges, and of course, the accumulated plastic wastes. Now, when sensitive areas are covered or damaged by waste, now the natural environment can no longer function, this one, properly. Okay? Now, for example, the coral reef. Okay? The coral reefs are damaged. Many species that depend on those reefs can lose their habitat. This can eventually affect the entire marine food web. So as seafarers, we may think that one small piece of garbage will not make a difference. But when millions of people and thousands of vessels make the same mistake, the impact become very serious, right? So therefore, a proper waste management on board is one practical way we can help protect marine habitats. Okay? Always remember that. Proper waste management on board. That is the most practical way that we can protect or help protect the marine habitats. Alright? So, with regards to socio-economic impacts, okay, environmental damage does not only affect the marine or the animals and ecosystems. It can also affect the people, the business, like if you have the resort, right? And the local communities. Okay? So, we have fisheries and aquaculture. Okay? The industries, no? Fisheries and aquaculture. So, once it is polluted, well, basically, the local government of this area will declare closure for this because this is not safe for us, no? For swimming and for the fish, no? So it's not really helpful basically to our environment, marine environment. Now, okay. This is an example, no, of a garbage record book. All right? So, let us move to this part, important part of MARPOL compliance. First, the garbage record book or what we call the GRB. Okay, this garbage record book is an important legal document. Okay? For garbage management record. As shown here in our slide, it is required by MARPOL 5, Annex 5. For ships of 400 gross tonnage and above, 400 gross tonnage and above, as well as ships that is certified to carry 15 more persons. Okay, question. Why is this book important? The GRB. Now, because it provides a documented evidence of what happens to your garbage on board. Okay? Now, when your garbage is discharged or incinerated or is processed or delivered to a shore reception facility, the operation must be properly recorded. Okay? So, this garbage record book or the GBR is not simply an ordinary notebook. It is part of our evidence that the vessel is following the applicable garbage management requirement of the MARPOL Annex 5. That is, every entry must be accurate and properly documented. Alright? So, let's go to properly to our garbage record book. Okay. The GRB can serve as the legal evidence, right, of compliant waste operations. So, this means that inspectors can check the information recorded in the book and then compare with other vessel records. Now, for example, the presentation tells us that the entries should be cross-checked. Okay, it should be cross-checked against navigation logs, the incinerator burn records, your engine room logbooks, and waste delivery receipts from the shore reception facility. Now, question, why is it important? Okay, the answer is the recorded operation should make sense with the vessel's actual position and activities. Okay? For example, if we record a garbage discharge at sea, okay, at the vessel's position, it must satisfy the applicable MARPOL requirements. We also have to remember that plastic cannot simply discharge into the sea, right? So, accidental or emergency losses must also be properly recorded, including the reason for the incident. Okay? Now, if you perform the operation, record the operation accurately, you have a good documentation, that is a part of good seamanship already. Right? Proper documentation. Okay. If we have the garbage record book, we also have a garbage management plan, the GMP, this one. Okay, the garbage management plan provides the vessel with a structured system for handling garbage, right? So the plan should be practical and specific to the vessel. Okay, now it should be something that the crew can actually follow, no, during daily operations. And then here we have several important points. First, the approval, okay, and language. The plan should be written in the working language of the crew, and then you translate it when necessary. And then secondly, the designated officer is responsible, no? Usually the chief officer is the one responsible, or another assigned officer should oversee the garbage management on board. And then thirdly, we have the procedures and equipment. So the plan should explain how here the garbage is collected, how it is processed, how it is stored, and how it was discharged. So it should also identify the location and the proper use of equipment, such as your compactors, your shredders, and your incinerators. So, the general management plan gives us a system. Okay? But remember, having a plan is not enough. The crew must understand, or he must understand it, and then he will follow it every day. Not just a plan, but it is a plan for the crew to follow every day. Okay? So, we have here what we call the placards. Okay, now we come up to placards. Placards are important because they communicate garbage discharge requirements clearly to the crew and passengers. All right? The key points shown here are placement visibility, you have vessel application, and clear language. Now, why are placards important? What do you think? Why is it important? Okay. Basically because not everyone on board may remember every MARPOL requirement. Right? So, a clear, visible placard provides an immediate reminder. For example, crew members working on the galley, in the engine room, in the accommodation areas, or in the deck areas, they should be able to easily identify the proper garbage handling requirements. Okay? The information should be placed in locations where the people can actually see it. Okay? And it should be written in a language that the crew can understand easily. So, placards are a simple but an effective safety and environmental control. No? So, they help turn regulations into a daily requirement or reminders. Okay? So, though this is just very simple, but it is very important, very informative as our reminders of our daily or for our everyday work at sea. Okay? Now, let's go to the storage, the garbage storage. Finally, for this section, let us talk about the garbage storage. It is important because it helps control three major risks: fire hazards, health hazards, and environmental hazards. Now, in this presentation or in this slide, it highlights several things that inspectors may look at. First is the capacity and lashing. The garbage containers here must have enough capacity and must be properly secured, especially during heavy weather. Okay? Now, secondly, the hazard mitigation. Now here, garbage should be stored in a way that minimizes the possibility of fire, of leakage, or accidental discharge, or any other hazards. Okay? And thirdly, which is the hygiene and fire preparedness, garbage storage areas should be maintained properly, clean, to prevent health problems and reduce fire risks. Now, so when we store garbage on board, we should not think of it as simply putting waste somewhere until the next disposal operation. Okay? We need to ask ourselves, first, is it properly segregated? Okay, you think, no? Is the container suitable? Okay? Or is it properly secured? Or maybe you can ask yourself if is the area clean already? No? So, you also you ask yourself, could it create a fire or pollution hazard? Now, all that very simple questions to yourself, though it's very simple, no? But they are very important in your daily shipboard operations. No? And with that, we have completed this section, no, of environmental damage, the garbage record book, the garbage management plan, the placards, and proper garbage storage. So let's continue now to our next section or our next slide, because we will discuss daily shipboard operations and how the MARPOL requirements are applied in our everyday work. Okay, so let's go to our next topic. Okay. The segregation. Okay. You have color-coded garbage containers. Okay, our daily shipboard operations. Okay, now we have to have a proper segregation of the daily garbage routine. Okay, we have here the recording and documentation. Okay. The garbage segregation in maritime. Yes, you have to collect, you have to separate, you have to label, you have to store, and then record everything. We have the shipboard inspection checklist here. They have to check the items, the segregation. The bins label, you put labels if it is plastic, biodegradable, non-biodegradable, everything. And then, did you segregate correctly? Did you put placards or is it visible? The record book is updated and about the PPEs also. And then the crew responsibility. Okay, you have the master's responsibility, the chief officer's responsibility, for the chief engineer, the bosun, the galley staff, the engine crew, and the ordinary seaman. So, all have different responsibilities. Okay? All of you on board. Here, see, the garbage segregation has been completed. And then plastic waste is ready for discharge ashore. Then you were able to record it through the garbage record book. So you have to take note, no? That each color of garbage bin has its own purpose. Okay? And then, so we were able to discuss everything about garbage segregation. And then we'll go to our question and answer now. So, for question number 1, okay, I hope everyone will participate. Okay, and for question number 1, what are the 3 elements required for a fire? So, what are those? A, B, or C? The triangle. Of course, it's letter B. Right? The heat, the fuel, and oxygen. So without heat, there will be no fire. So without fuel, there will be no fire. And the absence of oxygen, there will be no fire. So it should be combined, the 3 elements. Okay? The heat, the fuel, and the oxygen. And second question is, which of the following is considered high-risk garbage? A, B, or C? It's letter C, high-risk garbage. And then the third one, why should oily rugs be placed in dedicated self-closing containers? Of course, it's A, B, or C. Why should oily rugs should be kept or placed in a dedicated self-closing containers? Yes, to prevent oxidation and fire. You can enclose, okay, the remnants or the elements of fire here if placed in a dedicated self-closing containers. And then another, number 4. What is the general rule under MARPOL Annex 5? Oh, it's very easy. It's A, B, or C. Okay? Garbage discharge into the sea is generally prohibited except where specifically permitted. Okay? That is the general rule under MARPOL Annex 5. It's all about the garbage discharge into the sea. Is generally prohibited except where specifically permitted. Okay? Now, for number 5, which type of garbage is prohibited from being discharged into the sea? Anywhere. What type of garbage is that? Okay? A, B, or C? Yes, it's the plastic because this is a non-biodegradable. Okay? Years in order for this to be totally eliminated once thrown into the sea. It takes years of years of years. So this is the type of garbage that is prohibited from being discharged into the sea. And any sea. Okay? Question number 6. What should crew members do when they detect a pollution hazard? Is it A, B, or C? Of course, you have to detect. Remember, you report, you assess, you contain, you recover, and then you document it. Right? Remember this. 6. Okay. Number 7. What is the purpose, excuse me, of the garbage record book? Is it A, B, or C? All right. The purpose of garbage record book is to document garbage operations, right? And then provide evidence of compliance to MARPOL Annex 6 or Annex 5. Okay? That is the main purpose of garbage record book. This is not simply a record book, but this is your evidence. Okay? For number 8, which practice helps prevent cross-contamination of garbage? Is it A, B, or C? Helps prevent cross-contamination. All right. It's A. Cross-contamination meaning mixing of garbages. So, what is the best practice for that? It's proper waste segregation. Okay? That is the proper way. Practice proper waste segregation. And then for number 9, what should be done after garbage operations at the end of a shift? What should be done? Okay, after garbage operations at the end of a shift. A, B, or C? Well, it's letter B. Immediately record the operations in the garbage record book. That is your first step. Okay? Record. And then, that should be done also after garbage operations at the end of a shift. Immediately record the operations in the garbage record book. And then lastly, for number 10, which of the following is a responsibility of ordinary seaman? Okay, is it A, B, or C? What is your responsibility? Calling all ordinary seamen there? Everyone? Okay, the answer is daily waste collection. That is your responsibility, ordinary seamen's. You collect the daily waste. You sort it out, segregate everything, and then you have to clean after for health hazards, to prevent health hazards. Okay? So, we come up now to um our lesson for today. So okay, so everyone, as we end of our session today, I would like to take this opportunity again to sincerely thank each and every one of your time, your attention, and most importantly, your active participation throughout this lesson, no? And to all the trainees of the Gimiang Shipping Seafarers Union, thank you very much for being with me today. Okay? I know that working in the maritime industry is not always easy, right? It's really not easy. We have to follow all the regulations. So being a seafarer, it requires, yeah, I know it's discipline. Your discipline, your responsibility, with your positions, no? With the patience, okay? With the teamwork on board and a strong commitment to, of course, the safety. Okay? That is our top goal, the safety of everyone. You spend long periods away from your families and loved ones, and you face different challenges while working on board. Well, that is why knowledge and skills you gain from a training like this or from a lessons like this are very important, right? It's not only your professional development, but also for your own safety and for the safety of everyone working alongside with you, right? So, I hope that the information that I discussed today will not simply remain inside in this session, no, or inside these presentation slides. I hope this will carry these lessons. I hope you will carry, these lessons with you whenever you go, especially when you return on board. Now, always remember that knowledge becomes valuable when we apply it. Okay? Now, in our work at sea, sometimes the smallest decisions can make a very big difference. Following the correct procedure, communicating properly with your fellow crew members, paying attention to details, and having the courage to speak or to speak up when something is unsafe can prevent accidents and save lives. No, imagine that. So whenever your career takes you, wherever your career takes you, please continue to learn, continue to improve, and never become a complacent about safety, no? Never, never. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the Gimiang Shipping Seafarers Union for supporting our training and for giving the trainees this opportunity to continue learning and developing their knowledge and skills. Thank you so much. And your support is important, no? Of course, because investing in seafarers is also investing in safer ships, in a stronger crews, and a better maritime industry. And to all of you, to all our trainees, I want to say this: be proud of what you do. Really, being a seafarer is more than simply having a job. It is a profession that carries great responsibility. All of you are part of an industry that connects countries, support businesses, transports essential goods, and keeps global trade moving. So really, your work matters a lot to us. So there may be difficult days, there may be moments when you feel tired or challenged, but always remember that why you started, and the people who are depending on you. No, take care of yourselves, everyone. Let's take care of your fellow crew members. Look after one another, because as we all know at sea, teamwork is not just important. It can save lives. Okay, before we officially close, I would like to encourage everyone to take at least one important lesson from today's training, and bring it with you when you return to your workplace. Okay? Now, you can ask yourself, what can I do good? Or what can I do better? Okay? What can I improve? And how can I contribute to making my ship and my workplace safer? No? If you can answer that correctly, well, thank you. No? So if each one of us makes even one positive improvement, together we can create a much safer and stronger working environment, right? So once again, to all our trainees, to the Gumian Shipping Seafarers Union, thank you very much for your participation and your patience and your valuable time today. Thank you Thank you as well to everyone who helped organize and support this training. I hope you found today's session useful, meaningful, and applicable to your work on board. Please continue to stay safe, stay disciplined, stay professional, and most importantly, take care of yourselves and each other. All right? So I wish you all of your safe journey, a successful career to everyone, and more years of good health and achievement in the maritime industry. Okay? Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay strong, and may always have a good, safe voyage. I'm again your teacher for today, Teacher Shelly. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you all a week after. Bye!